Game 7, Leafs and Panthers. That's for the final spot in the conference finals. Meantime, Shohei Ohtani threw a 50-pitch bullpen session on Saturday, another step in his throwing program to returning from elbow surgery. His teammate Clayton Kershaw made his season debut Saturday.
Next delivery on Taylor Ward is a ball that he lifts high and deep down the left field side, and that ball is gone. Taylor Ward, a towering home run, hit right down that line down in that left field corner. It stayed fair, and for Ward, his 11th home run of the season, and the Angels have a 4-3 lead.
And there you have it. By the way, the Angels had beaten the Dodgers in the series opener. Kershaw lasting 4 innings, as heard on Angels Radio AM 830. He allowed 5 runs, 5 hits against those Angels. This was a game that went back and forth. The Dodgers grabbed the top side of the scoreboard. The Angels regained it and didn't give it back.
We're in the 7th, the pitch. O'Hoppe swings at this one, lifts it high, hits it well out into right field. It's out by the wall. It's out of here. Logan O'Hoppe has hit a home run for the Angels. And that one's going to give the Angels a 9-7 lead. They keep battling tonight at Dodger Stadium.
Indeed, they did. They hung 11 on the board. Angels Radio AM 830 once again. Logan O'Hoppe going out with 2 aboard. He knocked in 5, besting the Dodgers 11-9. That's 2 straight for them in this Freeway Series. Again, Nuggets battle the Thunder. It's Game 7 for a spot in the Western Conference Finals. Coverage begins today at 3 Eastern right here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. It is presented by Indeed. Yankees and Mets from the ballpark in the Bronx. Sunday night baseball, 6 Eastern right here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We've got you covered. Big day on ESPN Radio tomorrow by day and night. Thanks for staying up all night. For producer Steve Risser and technical director Justin Oswick, I'm Jim Baswell. The best week ever is next.
Hey, it's resident Super Bowl champ Chris Candy coming on Monday. So much going on in the world of sports, NBA and NHL playoffs, plus the PGA Championship. And I'll react to it all in my upon further review at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED, because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/joy, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Hey, it's Greg McElroy from the Always College Football Podcast. Check out our current episode where we rank the top 10 quarterbacks in college football for the 2025 season. Download it anywhere where you get your podcast.
The United Football League is heating up.
The push for the playoffs begins now.
The Arlington Renegades.
Look at Luis. Barnett, one hand to the house.
Beautiful. The DC Defenders.
Dominate today, no regret. Touchdown Defenders.
A divisional showdown of playoff contenders.
Both teams with something to prove. We're going to have a heavyweight fight.
The United Football League. Renegades, Defenders. Today at noon Eastern on ABC.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman, and coming up Monday, we'll react to a huge sports weekend that includes the NBA and NHL playoffs, plus the PGA Championship. It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
How are you? My name's Scott Van Pelt, host of SV Pod, along with my partner in crime, Stanford Steve. What do we talk about mostly on the podcast, Steve?
Sports.
Some
Parenting?
I feel like that comes up a lot. I feel like most recently I've needed some help because I feel like my shortcomings there are evident. It's life stuff, relatable content.
It's fun.
It's just two bald-headed goons just talking about nonsense a lot in a crowded podcast space. There's that one.
We're here.
Here we are.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. The Subway Series returns.
Juan Soto has tied this one up.
Juan Soto makes his return to the Bronx when the Mets face Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees.
Judge going back. Jumps! And he made the catch!
The Mets at the Yankees. Coverage begins today at 6 Eastern with first pitch at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
KXLA's Area Heights, Spokane.
Broadcasting from the Turf Club Sportsbook at Northern Quest Resort and Casino Studios. This is 700 ESPN 105.3 FM.
This is Sports Center.
I'm Ed Bankin. Today, the second round of the NBA playoffs will conclude with a highly anticipated Game 7. It will be the Nuggets and the Thunder doing battle in Oklahoma City. We'll have the game for you here on ESPN Radio. Our coverage will get underway at 3 Eastern. The game can also be seen on ABC, and the winner gets the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. In baseball, will the Twins ever lose again?
As a ball hit high in the air for Clemens to right field. Frelick going back, and Cody's done it again. A solo home run into the bullpen for Cody Clemens.
Call on the Treasure Island Baseball Network. Make it 13 in a row for Minnesota. They blanked the Brewers 7-0. And they gained a game when another team, which was rolling Detroit, the Tigers, finally cooled off by the Blue Jays 2-1. The Angels won their second straight of the Freeway Series, outslugging the Dodgers 11-9. In Sunday Night Baseball, we've got the rubber game of the Subway Series between the Mets and Yankees from the Bronx. Our coverage gets underway at 6 p.m. Eastern. Mets topping the Yankees yesterday. In hockey, the Winnipeg Jets looked to stay alive against the Dallas Stars last night in the Stanley Cup playoffs and took the ice with a heavy heart. Mark Scheifele elected to play for Winnipeg despite learning of the death of his father. Scheifele did score for the Jets, but it was Dallas which prevailed in overtime 2-1. The Thomas Harley power play goal. They win the series 4-2 and will face Edmonton in the Western Conference Finals beginning on Wednesday. They will tee off in Charlotte later this morning for the final round of the PGA Championship. Scotty Scheffler's in the lead after shooting a 65-600 yesterday. He is 11 under for the tournament and holds a 3-stroke lead.
Hey, it's resident Super Bowl champ Chris Candy coming on Monday. So much going on in the world of sports, NBA and NHL playoffs, plus the PGA Championship. And I'll react to it all in my upon further review at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
From the Windy City in the Deep South, this is the best week ever. With Peter Burns and Courtney Cronin on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You the best, you the best, you the best, you the best.
Well, I don't think it's a stretch to say NBA history on the line. In addition to a spot in the West Finals this afternoon, ABC right here on ESPN Radio. 2 MVP candidates, 1 Game 7 in Oklahoma City. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Indeed, it is the best week ever on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. I'm Aaron Goldhammer with Gabe Knight, so we are in for Peter Burns and Courtney Cronin. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Gabe, we've known each other almost 20 years, so you know I grew up in Denver, huge Nuggets fan. I got Nuggets gear laid out, ready to go for this afternoon, but I was supposed to be at a zoo this afternoon. I'd made the promise to the kids. I was worried about balancing the game and the family. But they are sick now. Not me. They are sick now. So my schedule has cleared. We have made the decision no zoo. And the latest for me is that the basement TV will be available 3:30 Eastern time. How about that?
I mean, that's great news for you. However, I don't have small children myself, but I have plenty of friends and family who have. So it seems like this is working out for you now. I don't know what kind of illness your children and wife are currently going through. The one thing I do know is the sacrifice of not going to the zoo today. You are going to be sick eventually, but it may be worth it because you've got a Game 7 that you can sit down and watch this afternoon.
Well, Gabe, I'm going over to the drugstore and getting some tranquilizers for my family, and they will be receiving those at about 3 o'clock, and they will all be napping from about 3:30 to 6:30 Eastern for the Nuggets and the Thunder. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. It is easy. Bundle home, car insurance. Go to Progressive.com. That is Progressive.com.
This is the biggest story of the week ever.
In addition to the Game 7, which we'll get to momentarily, biggest story of the week ever here on Best Week Ever on ESPN Radio. I'm Eric Goldhammer with Gabe Neitzel, and we start where I didn't think we would be starting, but boy, we are, Gabe. In the WNBA, final score, Indiana Fever 93, Chicago Sky 58. But the big story, an altercation between two rivals. Take a listen.
And look out, Caitlin Clark pushes Angel Reese, and Angel Reese gets right up into Caitlin Clark. Afterwards has something to say as Clark walks away. We know there are always increased eyeballs, energy, and attention around the matchups between Reese and Clark.
Let me say, it's not just that this is the WNBA, but it's also these two players going again that heightens the conversation. But, Gabe, this was like a foul. This was hardly, I used the word altercation, but it was really pretty harmless. What did you think?
Well, it ended up not being harmless, though, Hammer, because, the foul itself is a foul I think you've seen. I mean, you'll probably see it a couple of times today. Somebody is just wide open underneath the basket. Caitlin Clark decides, hey, I'm going to make a play on the ball. It's going to be a hard foul, but it's just a foul. She's playing for the ball. Maybe I strip it. If I don't, it ends up being a foul, and we'll send Angel Reese to the free throw line for two. Angel Reese took exception. Aaliyah Boston stood up for Caitlin Clark, and it ends up being more than what initially I thought it was going to be. They have to review it. Ends up being a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark as they upgrade it. But ultimately, the Fever just dominated this game, and this... How come these two, whenever they play, there's always something that seems to happen?
Right, that goes like beyond the scope of the game. That leads to a conversation that's well beyond Fever versus Sky. After the game, Caitlin Clark asked about her hard foul on Angel. Take a listen.
Let's not make it anything that it's not. It was just a good play on the basketball. I'm not sure what the refs saw to upgrade it, and that's up to their discretion after watching the initial whatever happened during the play and then whatever happened after. You know, we watch a lot of basketball. It's a take foul to put them at the free throw line or rather give up 2 points. You know, I've watched a lot of basketball in my life. That's exactly what it was. I wasn't trying to do anything malicious. That's not the type of player I am. So, yes, it wasn't anything like that. And I went for the ball, and that's clear as day in the replay. You watch it. You know, it shouldn't have been upgraded.
I think Angel was frustrated, not just at Caitlin, but also because her team was getting their butts kicked, right, Gabe? I mean, her comments back on the court, you could kind of read her lips, you know, what the bleep was that? You're bleeping crazy. There was some of that going on between the two of them. I just think Angel Reese is competitive and wasn't exactly happy that her team was behind and Caitlin Clark was on her way to a triple-double.
Yeah, I mean, they did dominate the game. You mentioned the final score, 93-58. This Fever team is really fun, and Aaliyah Boston immediately stood up for her teammate. We got in the mix. She was assessed a technical foul. And then I enjoyed after the game Caitlin Clark saying, hey, I got you, because there's a $200 fine in the WNBA that comes with that technical foul. It appears that Caitlin Clark going to be taking care of that for Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah, by the way, for an NBA player, $200 that they have in their couch cushions, and I'm not lying. They forgot the $200. In the WNBA, if you look at Aaliyah Boston's salary, $200 is like $200 for you and me. It's like, I don't want to give up $200. Here was Angel Reese asked after the game about the flagrant on Caitlin. Take a listen.
Angel, can you take us through the flagrant foul from your perspective? Just what you saw in that play, how you interpreted what happened.
Basketball play, refs got it right. Move on.
There you go. So Angel is
Very
saying
dismissive.
the same thing. She's saying the same thing we're all saying. Guys, I want to say two more things about these two. One is that it might get to the point by the end of the year this year, and I have a lot of respect for Collier and Asia Wilson, and it's a league of stars. Caitlin Clark might be the MVP of the WNBA by the time the league ends this year. That's how good she is with the triple-double. The second point, I saw Angel Reese getting a lot of hate yesterday on social because people think she's not good at basketball. Where do you come out, Gabe, on her rebound numbers are just good because she misses a lot of shots under the basket and then just gets her own rebound over and over and over again?
I mean, there's certainly an aspect to her game that fits, right? I mean, we've seen it a bunch where she's missed a lot of her shots and her offensive rebound numbers get juiced a little bit, but she's still a good defensive player. She had 17 rebounds yesterday. It's not like 16 of them were offensive. She had 10 defensive rebounds. Yeah. She is a good player in this league, but she is not on the level of Caitlin Clark, and I think there is a little bit of that factors in because you've heard her talk about it before. Well, it's not just all Caitlin, it's the both of us. Like, we together raised, the profile of the NCAA tournament. And I don't know if she's feeling like she's getting left behind here a little bit because, as you mentioned, Caitlin Clark's going to be an MVP candidate this year. I mean, Asia Wilson, despite her team losing yesterday, still had 31 and 16 casually. So Asia Wilson's still one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. But you're not going to see Angel Reese's name on an MVP ballot this year. That's just not how where she ranks in the league. Caitlin is on a different level.
I agree. By the way, Liberty did beat the Aces 92-78 on ring night in Brooklyn at Barclays Center with Ionescu and everybody getting to raise a championship banner. Best week ever on ESPN Radio, ESPN app. I'm Aaron Goldhammer with Gabe Neitzel. It was a big night last night in the NHL where the Dallas Stars have advanced. They are going to the Western Conference Finals on an overtime game winner on a power play at the beginning of OT. Take a listen.
And Dallas is down to a half minute left on the power play. Miro Heiskanen, the wide turn, slowly out of the Star zone. The drop for Thomas Harley. Heiskanen to the bench. Dumped in by Marchman off the chest to the corner. Hellebuck sent it there. Behind the net, Sagan. Harley shot. He scores! He does it! Thomas Harley, a power play goal. The Stars are going back to the Western Conference Final for the third straight year.
96.7 The Ticket. I sports hate the Stars, but respect what it is that they do. They knocked out my Avalanche in round one. They're now maybe one of the favorites to win the Cup, Gabe. But I thought the story of this game and the way that I'm going to remember it had to do with a player for the Jets who both scored the first goal of the game and also took a necessary penalty. The Jets were going to lose this game on a breakaway if Scheifele doesn't trip the Stars player at the end of regulation that led to the penalty. But the story of him losing his dad earlier in the day and then being able to bounce back and play and score a goal, get the support not only of his teammates but also the opponent, is one of the things that I'll always remember about last night in Dallas.
The moment where he scores early is just full of emotion, and like you said, it's a necessary penalty. You're hoping you can kill it early in overtime. Obviously, they didn't. Now their season is over. But yeah, that is certainly a great story for him to score that first goal of the night, and you're thinking, oh man, if they force a Game 7, this is going to be something that is remembered forever. Instead, the Stars come out on top, back in the West Final. And by the way, we've got a Game 7 tonight in hockey as well. So yes, we got 2 Game 7s to be looking forward to. After your Nuggets are done, they'll clear way for a primetime matchup, Panthers-Maple Leafs up in Toronto, as they'll have a Game 7 over in the East.
And that's a team that has been snake-bit, hasn't won the Cup forever, and I'm still sitting here in the United States, maybe unpatriotic, hoping a Canadian team can win the Cup this year. Best week ever is on ESPN Radio. Aaron Goldhammer, Gabe Neitzel in for the crew. We do have the Game 7 this afternoon between the Nuggets and the Thunder. And the big question in this one, Gabe, whether Aaron Gordon is going to play. The Nuggets need him. They only have 6 guys that they can really trust. David Adelman, their head coach, gave us an update on Gordon's status.
I just went through the walkthrough. Game time decision, obviously. But he fully was part of it, the game plan, both sides of the ball. So if Aaron can play, he will play. just like Mike has throughout these playoffs. This is a different kind of situation. So obviously questionable, but it's nice having the full day yesterday, day today, and obviously the morning tomorrow. So we'll see how he feels tomorrow.
It is a left hamstring strain. That's the head coach of the Nuggets, Gabe. To me, not the question whether Gordon's going to play. It's how effective he's going to be.
Yeah, because we saw this last year with the Knicks, where they had a bunch of injured guys when they were in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Pacers, and they all played, but it was, you could kind of tell, not really moving all that well. And when you only have 6 guys that you trust, if Aaron Gordon can't be effective, they need him to be. He's been clutch. A couple of game-winning shots, a shot earlier in the series that sent Game 3 to overtime. They need Aaron Gordon if they're going to win Game 7. And if he's ineffective, that's a huge advantage for OKC.
Well, from my eyes, they don't need Aaron Gordon. As a Nugget fan, we need Aaron Gordon. Coming up next, more on the Game 7. Nuggets, Thunder, 3:30 this afternoon. You can listen here on ESPN Radio. And why the outcome of today's game could change the NBA forever. I'm not overreacting. This is the best week ever.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio. The Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder head to Game 7 with a trip to the Western Conference Finals on the line. Coverage begins today at 3 Eastern, with tip-off at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ABC. Presented by Indeed.
That's the ease at which you get information. You want it, you get it. Like that. Ask your phone. Group chat. Smartphone. You're always connected and informed in real time. No waiting. So if you're diabetic and still using finger sticks to read your blood sugar, what are you waiting for? Knowing your blood sugar levels instantly is important for managing diabetes. Call US Med at 888-665-0696. To learn more about continuous glucose monitors, a real-time instant method to track your blood glucose. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 1,000 private insurers. And the best part? Call 888-665-0696 and we'll give you a free insurance benefits check today. So call 888-665-0696 today. That's 888-665-0696 and manage your diabetes as easy as...
Hey, did you miss Clinton and Friends?
Another team is mentioned, the Indiana Pacers. And it sounds crazy to think, but we've been talking all 2 weeks about how deep that team is, about how they're not really a star-driven squad, but could probably use one outside of Halliburton. It's not the worst idea in the world to think that Giannis could be a part of Indiana basketball.
Clinton and Friends, weekdays from 10 to noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. This is Freddie and Harry.
Shout out to Freddie, about to turn 60 years old. Black don't crack, brother. You look like you look like a young man out here. That's what I'm talking about. Give it up to moisturizer. Give it up to shea butter. Give it up to all that stuff. You look good, my man.
You have to moisturize. No.
Let everybody know the routine out here in these radio streets, my man. They can't see it, but you got to let them know. They see him on the internet. The man got the shades on. He out there in the car. Everything's moisturized.
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Stanley Cup playoffs. Man, your nerves might be shot. And you might be screaming your lungs out. And you might be clinging to hope. And it might be tarps off time. And the guy next to you might be your new best friend. And you might be dreaming about the cup. And you might be completely lost for words, but that's what it's all about. That's hockey. The Stanley Cup playoffs continue on ESPN.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. The Subway Series returns.
Juan Soto has tied this one up.
Juan Soto makes his return to the Bronx when the Mets face Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees.
Judge going back, jumps, and he made the catch.
The Mets at the Yankees. Coverage begins today at 6 Eastern, with first pitch at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
7 in Oklahoma City, Sunday afternoon. Denver 119 and the Thunder 107.
This group, they're tough-minded. They know they can be better each game as an individual or as a teammate, and that's who we've been for a long time.
You get to find out about not just yourself, but your teammates, and that sets you up for the next time you guys are down and you guys fight through and you build something else. Just over the years, we've kind of caught a rhythm of playing from behind.
We've earned the right to go down there and the opportunity to try to beat them in a Game 7, so I would tune into this game.
Well, Gabe, on the one side, you got 68 wins in the regular season. You got home court advantage, and you've got likely the MVP of the league in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. On the other side, you got a lot of experience. The Nuggets have played in 7 of these Game 7s. You got likely the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, but you've also got a major injury concern headed into this game. I'm Aaron Goldhammer with Gabe Knight, so we're in for Peter and Courtney on Best Week Ever on ESPN Radio. We're on the ESPN app. You can listen to us on Sirius XM Channel 80. For those of you who don't know that, you got us on your smart speaker. Just ask it to play ESPN Radio, and we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Gabe, would you rather have the deeper team or the more experienced team today?
I think I want the deeper team because we're going to take a look at what they're going to do, what the Nuggets are going to do if Aaron Gordon comes out. What if he can't move well? What if he's ineffective and they keep hunting switches and getting him onto Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and you can't protect him because now, Shai is just driving past him and able to get to the rim and finish there because Gordon just can't move with the hamstring. I'm really curious to see how he moves because it's not like they're just going to, we've got a little bit of depth. If he only plays 16, 20 minutes, that's fine because we'll just replace him with this player. They don't have that. So I think I'd rather have the deeper team based on the injuries that the Nuggets have. And it's also wild to me that David Adelman coached 3 games in the regular season. This is his second Game 7 already. If it keeps going like this, the dude's going to have more Game 7s than regular season games under his belt by the end of the postseason.
Can we stop calling... No offense to David Adelman, who's probably going to get this full-time job, but he is still slugged on the, what we call in television, the lower third, like the graphic that gives you his name, as the interim coach of the Nuggets, and not to out him. But Sam Pierce, our producer, in the pre-show meeting today, I said, David Adelman's got some sound, we should pull it. And he said, who is David Adelman? And I said, you know what? You're right. Nikola Jokic is the real coach of the Denver Nuggets. I don't know. But he's a prominent NBA. You should, I don't know. You work at ESPN. You just know who it is.
You ain't have to do me like that, Hammer.
He's the lead assistant of the Denver Nuggets,
Sam,
I guess.
Sam, I want you to be clear. I'm not doing you like anything. I'm just using that to explain that nobody knows who David Adelman is.
At all. Could not. He's got a funny face. He always looks like he's telling a bad joke.
Couldn't pick him out of the lineup. I understand what you're saying. Can I make the case, though, for the experience? These Game 7s are a level of pressure that the average sports fan, Gabe, does not understand. The over-under for today is set at 213.5 on ESPN Bet. And I don't know how this game is going to go, but I will tell you that personally I am betting the under. Because I know that Oklahoma City especially, Gabe, is going to come out of this nervous as heck and not going to be able to hit anything. You watch. The score at the end of the first quarter is going to be 15-14. Nuggets lead because it's going to take a while for these teams to get their legs under them, and I wouldn't be surprised if neither team gets to 100 points just because of the tension in the game. And that's where, Gabe, I think the experience factor is really, really important. Thunder are still the youngest team in the league, youngest team in the playoffs, and they're going to have to grow up in a hurry if they're able to bounce back from what happened the other night and win a Game 7 at home.
In a different era of the NBA, teams might be patient. Because, like you mentioned, the Thunder, they're the youngest team in the league. But this feels like kind of a pivot point for the franchise. They were unexpectedly the number 1 seed in the West last year. And I don't think anybody was shocked when they didn't make a Western Conference final. Because they kind of came out of nowhere. Team still needs playoff seasoning. And that's what last year was supposed to be. So if they don't get to the Western Conference final this year, and they get ousted yet again, now it's, okay, are they going to blow this team up? What are they going to do? Are they going to get involved in the Giannis sweepstakes? Should Giannis become available? And so there's just so many questions about this OKC team because of the assets that they have. All right, do we let this core ride it out? Or do we just, try to inject some veteran presence into this because they have so many assets to try to go get a player like Kevin Durant or Giannis.
You know, I wonder if you're the Bucks, you look at the Thunder have a high volume of picks, but I don't know about the quality of those picks to go and get Giannis. Also, I mean, maybe it makes sense for them to have one older star, but they have right now a very young core that could win multiple titles. They're really fast-forwarding their game plan if they want to go out and try to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not to put, I mean, Giannis is an unbelievable player, but I just, which team do I think is more ready to really win at the highest level, Houston or Oklahoma City, to make a trade like this? I might rather have the Houston assets if I'm Milwaukee than the Thunder. Now, Bob Myers previewed this game, ESPN NBA analyst on NBA Countdown. Of course, he was the executive for the Warriors for a number of years, and explained why, in his mind, the Thunder have no excuses if they can't win today.
They have no excuse, right?
No.
We talk about these things all year long. I think the Thunder are this. I think Shea's MVP. Who's going to beat the Thunder? The Thunder come out of the West. We have 3 hours tomorrow, and all those questions are going to be answered. Because if they win this game, they answered the bell. They lose this game, we were wrong. They aren't what we thought they were. Now, I think they will win. I do think they will win. They've had a fantastic year. You don't win 68 games if you're not a good team. You don't have the MVP if you're not a good team. They got no reason to lose this game.
And they're the favorites at home.
And they're the favorites at home. They have to win. To get to where they want to go, you win this game. You have no excuses.
Gabe, I don't think they're playing against the best player in the world. Now, Bob Myers could sit there on TV and say they've got the MVP. But we all know who the best player in the world really is, and it's the guy who almost single-handedly beat the Americans at the Olympics on his Serbia team, Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, but I think saying you've got the MVP, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the second best player in the world, right? I mean, if he's going to be the MVP this year, so you still have somebody that you can counter that with. And I am just curious how patient the Thunder are going to be, how patient that front office is going to be with the assets that they have. Okay, do we just continue to ride this out? It's a young team. You're going to have their ups and downs. You're going into this pressure-packed situation. Now you have experience. I mean, that's what is on the line for the Thunder. What are they going to do to try to get themselves over the hump? Do they think that this crew can? Do they think that they're missing something? And that's pressure that's going to continue to build up all regular season, because we know this team can win a bunch of games. Right. We just don't know if this team can win a bunch of games in the playoffs.
Right. And I'm saying that I think you've got to let them mature before you really hit the fast-forward button. And then my other question about that is, do they have the best package of players and picks if Giannis decided that he wanted out in Milwaukee? But there is a world, I will admit, that this is like Chet Holmgren's final game with the Oklahoma City Thunder today. The NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio. Postseason action, Thunder Nuggets, Game 7. Coverage starts 3 Eastern, ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. It is presented by Indeed. Coming up next, the biggest sound from an action-packed week in the world of sports as Best Week Ever continues on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's resident Super Bowl champ Chris Canty. Coming on Monday, I'll study the NFL schedule, which means I'll tell you the exact week Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart will start during their rookie seasons. It's Unsportsmanlike, weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Every great team has its core players, but when the season gets tough, adding the right free agent can make all the difference. The same goes for business. At Robert Half, we found that 67% of companies surveyed plan to increase their use of contract talent to handle workload peaks and backlog projects. With Robert Half's specialized recruiters' experience, combined with our award-winning AI, you can quickly find the skilled candidates you want. At Robert Half, we know talent. Discover how we can help at roberthalf.com/talent.
Progressive knows when you're in your RV, you're already on vacation. That's when you become Vacation You, who just camped where there's absolutely no shade. Even though regular you burns easily. In fact, Vacation You burns too, but is too stubborn to admit it, which is why regular you gets in trouble at the dermatologist, because Vacation You doesn't do doctors. So bundle your RV with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. The Subway Series returns.
Juan Soto has tied this one up.
Juan Juan Soto makes his return to the Bronx when the Mets face Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees.
Judge going back. Jumps! And he made the catch!
The Mets at the Yankees. Coverage begins today at 6 Eastern, with first pitch at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
A USL book club. What should the first book be?
The Art of
Summer's
Winning.
coming up.
By Bill Belichick.
Pass, hard pass.
What about 3 Nights in August? Buzz Bissinger
I have that book.
follows Tony La Russa, Cards Cubs series, three games. It's amazing.
Yeah, but you've already read it.
But like
the whole
many,
point of the
many,
book
many
club,
years
the whole
ago.
point of the book club is to read a new book together.
No, I listen to Hoop Collective.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. Amber and Ian.
So you just said that you couldn't see a way, but you're defining
Well, and
a way.
then I'm a lawyer. I can argue any side of anything. Everything's gray at all times. I did just contradict myself. I just don't see it happening.
100%.
I can create
So
an
which
argument
way
for
are you
anything.
going? Are you saying that he is or he
No.
isn't? Which argument are you making?
I am making
Are you the
the
defense
argument
attorney or are you the prosecutor? I mean, what the hell's going on here?
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Amber and Ian. Weeknights at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio. The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio. The Nuggets survive.
Jokic up top for three. Good, he got it. Nikola Jokic.
The Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder head to Game 7 with a trip to the Western Conference Finals on the line.
Gilgeous-Alexander open three. Bang, he got it.
Game 7 of the Nuggets and Thunder. Coverage begins today at 3 Eastern with tip-off at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ABC. Presented by Indeed. This is SportsCenter.
I'm Ed Bank, and there's one more second-round game to be played in the NBA playoffs, and it will take place today in Oklahoma City. Thunder and Nuggets will play Game 7 of their series. Denver's Aaron Gordon is questionable as he continues to deal with a hamstring injury. You can hear today's game on ESPN Radio with our coverage tipping off at 3 Eastern. The game can also be seen on ABC. To baseball, where the Mariners continue to lead the way in the AL West. They picked up their second straight win in San Diego, beating the Padres 4-1. The Rangers and Astros continue to chase Seattle. Texas beat Houston 5-1. They go for 3 out of 4 in the Lone Star Series today. The Freeway Series so far is going all the way to the Angels. They outslug the Dodgers 11-9. They go for the sweep today. The Mets even their series with the Yankees yesterday, and they will close out their Subway Series on Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN Radio. Our coverage gets underway at 6 Eastern. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Stars advance to the Western Conference Final for the third straight year.
And Dallas is down to a half-minute left on the power play. Miro Heiskanen, the wide turn, slowly out of the star zone. The drop for Thomas Harley. Heiskanen to the bench. Dumped in by Marchman off the chest to the corner. Hellebuck sent it there. Behind the net, Sagan. Harley shot. He scores!
The call on 96.7 The Ticket is Thomas Hartley's overtime goal gives Dallas the 2-1 win. They'll play Edmonton in the conference finals. And tonight it will be Game 7 between the Leafs and Panthers in Toronto to close out the second round. PGA Championship concludes today in Charlotte after shooting a 65 yesterday. Scotty Scheffler is atop the leaderboard. He is 3 strokes up at 11 under.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen. Coming up Monday, the Pacers and Wolves have been sitting at home waiting for their opponents. I'll tell you just how concerned they should be about rust. It's on Sportsmanlike 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
I think there's still a party going on there after the Knicks won the championship. Won the second round the other night. Look, I get their excitement. I love their enthusiasm. But I'm worried about what's going to happen on that street corner if the Knicks win this next series, or, God forbid, if they were to win the NBA championship. Gabe, I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying that was the biggest celebration for the win, for being halfway to a championship that I've ever seen in my life.
I was on game night on Friday night, and we talked with Alan Hahn, and he was shocked. He couldn't believe that somebody had climbed up to the marquee on top of Madison Square. He's like, I don't know how they got up there, but somehow somebody climbed their way up there after, yes, they finally made it to an Eastern Conference final for the first time in 25 years.
Gabe, I guess, if we could interview Patrick Ewing or John Starks or, Jalen Brunson on this show today, we would. But the guy I really want to talk to the most, who is the idiot that was wearing the Tyrese Halliburton jersey in the middle of the Knicks celebration? Like, really, dude, talk about asking for it. What possessed?
They were beating that kid up. I think they threw trash on him.
You really want to be on World Star. And I don't even know if that's still a thing, but you are just asking for it by going out there in the midst of New York City. It's going to be a fun series between the Knicks and the Pacers for the East. We've still got to set up the West Final. NBA playoffs are on ESPN radio coverage. Thunder Nuggets, Game 7 in OKC, 3 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. It is presented by Indeed.
Big Magic Johnson, what has he done? He's got
winners. I want people that want to win.
Not a game. We talking about
Playoffs? I'm a man. I'm
who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn field.
Biggest sound from the week ever.
Best week ever's on ESPN Radio. I'm Aaron Goldhammer, Gabe Neitzel in for the crew, and it's time for the biggest sound of the week ever. We start with Tim McMahon. Was on Joe and Q here on ESPN Radio earlier this week because the Dallas Mavericks got the luckiest bounce of a ping pong ball perhaps in NBA history.
Not only is it the most improbable lottery victory, I guess percentage-wise, Orlando winning the Shaq one was more so. But in terms of the storyline, you've got to be kidding me. And, the Mavericks were in a really tough spot after the Luka trade from a business perspective and from a long-term perspective with the picks that they have due from 27 to 30 to other teams. This absolutely mitigates both of those things. I know there's talk about, hey, should they trade this pick for Giannis? That's not happening. They will be taking Cooper Flag. I can assure you of that. They are not going to look this gift horse in the mouth.
Gabe, to heck with trading the pick for Giannis. But I might think about trading Anthony Davis if I was the Mavericks. Hear me out on this. You can't trust him to stay healthy. I feel like your total plan as an organization now has changed from we're trying to win in the next couple of years, defense wins championships, to let's build around Cooper Flag. And you could get a lot for Anthony Davis. Am I crazy to say that I actually think they ought to think about that? They don't want to trade for Giannis. I think they might want to trade AD and try to set themselves for the 2030 NBA championship.
But any good team knows what you just said about Anthony Davis. I mean, what team is going to give you a haul for somebody that they can't trust to stay healthy? And that player as he continues to get older. Could you get something in return? Absolutely. But I just don't know if you're getting key pieces that you're ultimately going to want to build around, because I don't know who's giving up their future for Anthony Davis other than the Dallas Mavericks, and, well, they already did that.
Well, but I just wonder about the teams that miss out on the Giannis sweepstakes that then have to go shrinking back to their players and their team and their fans. Like, I think you could leverage one of those teams to trade for Anthony Davis. Even if it's another Western Conference team, even if it's another Texas team like San Antonio or the Rockets.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know what future assets that you're going to truly have to try to build around Cooper Flag. Maybe you can get a pick or two and you can get lucky again, which, by the way, and I do not believe, I want to get this, I want to state this on the record, I don't believe that the NBA lottery is rigged. However, it is one of my favorite things that NBA fans do, because this goes back generations. Like before, this goes back to Patrick Ewing and the frozen envelope. It goes back to, Derrick Rose from Chicago magically ends up with the Bulls. Somehow LeBron James ends up in Cleveland. No. It is my favorite. No, and again, I do not believe that any of it is rigged. But the fact that generations of fans now have, evidence in their minds that they think that the NBA lottery is rigged is one of my favorite NBA ridiculous storylines.
Gabe, not only did the Cavs win the LeBron lottery, they also won 3 out of 4 after LeBron left. They won 3 out of 4 NBA draft lotteries. It's one of the biggest, most ridiculous stories. That is a stat and a half to be able to stomach. As we continue through here on Best Week Ever on ESPN Radio, Aaron Goldhammer, Gabe Neitzel. We talked to Shams, who had this bit of a bomb, I guess, to drop on your city, Gabe. Gabe is in Milwaukee, where all eyes are on Giannis Antetokounmpo.
They're going into this offseason really depleted on a lot of their resources. They have one first-round pick. They have eligible to be traded. They're not really a cap space team. They're very top-heavy as far as salaries, and we know there's that $54 million salary slot with Damian Lillard, and his performance next season is going to be in jeopardy because of that Achilles injury. And so all eyes here in Chicago are on Giannis Antetokounmpo and his future and what it means for potential contenders, teams trying to take that next step. Obviously, his availability is something every team is going to be monitoring. But he's played 12 years there. There's a lot of equity there. And so he's going to have really the next few weeks to explore his options.
This ultimately comes down to Giannis' decision. The Bucks aren't going to trade him willingly. I mean, you're familiar with the Haslams in Cleveland, Aaron, owners of the Cleveland Browns. They bought into the Bucks just a couple of years ago. They don't want to trade away Giannis and see the evaluation of that franchise go down. This comes down to whether or not Giannis Antetokounmpo goes to the Milwaukee Bucks front office and goes, hey, guys, it's been a great 12 years. We got a championship, but I just don't see a path here anymore. I want to be traded. I want out. And that meeting has not happened yet. Giannis and his representatives have not met. Yes, right. But they have not actually gotten together to discuss any of this to this point in the offseason.
Well, the other thing I'd mention about the Haslam family, they had Myles Garrett do this to them this past offseason. They did not trade him. They gave him a lot more money. The NBA is a bit different, and I think that the Haslams and the Bucks might be on the verge of finding that out. But until we know for sure that this is what Giannis wants, it's all sports talk, fodder, and speculation. People have been trying to get Giannis out of Milwaukee, Gabe. You know this for for a decade, right?
I think at this point, there hasn't been a story about Giannis potentially leaving. The only time it might have happened, and maybe I just missed it because I was in the euphoria of the Bucks actually winning a championship for the first time in 50 years, like 2021 might have been the only time. After they lost in the Eastern Conference Final, after they lost in the bubble, after they, like all these other times, like, well, Giannis might want out now, and it is yet to happen.
Best week ever on ESPN Radio. This is the biggest sound of the week ever. And Seth Wickersham certainly dropped one of his world-famous wicker bombs on everybody on Thursday afternoon. He had some news about the Chicago Bears in a book that he is writing that is on the verge of coming out. He did an interview with Caleb Williams' dad that shocked the city of Chicago. He was on Unsportsmanlike. Evan Canty and Michelle earlier this week.
Carl Williams was trying to find a way to give his son a measure of agency over his future employer because he wanted him to be to have the best chance for success that he could. It's nothing that Jack Elway didn't do. It was nothing that Archie Manning didn't do. And he just tried to find loopholes. He consulted with lawyers, agents, Archie Manning himself, Marvin Demoff, who was the agent for John Elway, to try to find a way to give his son a choice on where he went. And I think that the Bears' history when it comes to quarterbacks is horrible, and it goes back 70 years. And he didn't want his son to be forced into being a possible footnote.
Look, it's a situation where I get everything that happened, but it should have stayed behind the scenes because this is already done. It's over with. Your son is now in Chicago. I understand not wanting your kid to go play for the Chicago Bears, a franchise that has not yet produced a 4,000-yard passer. Again, my favorite joke last week after the Pope we found out was from Chicago, that Chicago has a Pope before they have a 4,000-yard passer. That's how tough things are for the Chicago Bears. And they have screwed up quarterback situation after quarterback situation. And think about going into last year. Like, they knew Matt Eberflus was on the hot seat. Like, do you want to go into that dysfunction in your first year? No, you probably don't. So exploring all those options makes sense. What stops making sense to me is you now just spilling all of the beans to Seth Wickersham in a book to now where when your son is next available for, media interviews and the OTAs and off-season mini camps. Now you've got a lot of explaining to do as Caleb Williams because your dad did an interview with Seth Wickersham for a book.
Yeah, Gabe, remind me this. When I become a professional baseball player, because I still think my career is on the horizon here at 42 years old. I think I still got one coming.
I mean, you got to learn how to catch a baseball first, but...
I do. Remind me to tell my dad not to do any interviews unless I say it's okay first. That's number one. Number two, I don't know how much this is going to affect Caleb Williams on the field in Chicago moving forward, but, okay, if all goes well, everybody will forget. If all does not go well, it is going to be a three-ring circus at Soldier Field, in part because of this story. And I would just point out, maybe you think I'm being unfair right now, if you redrafted the 2024 NFL Draft, Caleb Williams does not go first. I'm not sure Caleb Williams goes second, and I'm not sure Caleb Williams goes third. Bo Nix, Drake May, Jade Daniels, they all had better rookie seasons than Caleb Williams did. The book on that is not closed. These guys are going to have long careers ahead of them. But, man, would I be nervous if I was a fan of the Chicago Bears that I got the fourth best quarterback coming out of that class, and a guy who now has created a real circus. What do you think? Every incompletion, every interception, they're not going to be chanting at Soldier Field? Of course they are.
Yeah, because they want a quarterback there, I mean, more than anything in Chicago. And everything that you just said about the other quarterbacks is right. I still think they probably made the right decision to get Caleb Williams. I'm curious how much those other three quarterbacks you mentioned, particularly Daniels and Bo Nix, who were in great situations, turns out, to succeed. Yeah. How much would they succeed in Chicago with the just absolute dysfunction that they had last season in the coaching staff? Because the other thing that came out of this is sometimes Caleb Williams is just watching film alone. Yeah. And because Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, who was their offensive coordinator to start the season, just provided him with no guidance as an NFL rookie.
Right, which is a bad look, and also Caleb Williams probably coming out of USC should have a little bit more of an idea of how to watch film. I think all of that is fair. Look, to me, the other piece of this, like, I would have wanted a guy in Chicago that says, not like this is where quarterbacks go to die, but move over, Sid Luckman. You know, I like to have that attitude. And if you're a good quarterback in Chicago, it won't be Lakeshore Drive for long. You know, it'll be Williams Boulevard if he takes them to a Super Bowl. Coming up next, Charlie Hustle talk, Bronx Booers talk, and why lawmakers in my state are fed up with Fox Network. The best week ever rolls on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The NBA playoffs on ESPN Radio.
Round pass to Jokic. Puts it in and he's fouled.
From the play-in tournament.
It really just felt like we had a second chance.
Until a champion is crowned at the NBA Finals.
If you don't think we are headed for an amazing spring, I can't help you.
Welcome to the NBA playoffs. Anything can happen.
On ESPN Radio and on ESPN. Hey, did you miss Clinton and Friends?
This entire series was an embarrassing performance for the Cavs. As fraudulent a top seed as we've seen in not only the Eastern Conference, but arguably the NBA in a long time. I understand there were injuries. I understand things happen. But that deal about Max Strus texting everybody in the organization, if you're not going to be there, don't bother showing up for work and then going 0 for everything, bro.
Clinton and Friends, weekdays from 10 to noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
How are you? My name's Scott Van Pelt, host of SV Pod, along with my partner in crime, Stanford Steve. What do we talk about mostly on the podcast, Steve?
Sports.
Some.
Parenting?
I feel like that comes up a lot. I feel like most recently I've needed some help because I feel like my shortcomings there are evident. It's life stuff, you know, relatable content.
It's fun.
It's just two bald-headed goons just talking about nonsense a lot in a crowded podcast space. There's that one.
We're here.
Here we are.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman, and coming up Monday, we'll react to a huge sports weekend that includes the NBA and NHL playoffs, plus the PGA Championship. It's on Sportsman, like 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
We've waited so long.
It's time for the NCAA Softball Championship Regionals.
Take you on a trip so far.
The road to the Women's College World Series heats up as softball's elite look to punch their ticket to OKC. Are you ready? Because here they come. The NCAA Softball Championship presented by Capital One. Regionals May 16th through 18th on the networks of ESPN and ESPN+.
The Baseball Tonight podcast.
There's no great team in the American League, and there's no really, really good team in the American League. We're going to go back and forth.
The Baseball Tonight podcast is on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The United Football League is heating up.
The push for the playoffs begins now.
The Arlington Renegades.
Look at Luis. Barnett, one hand to the house.
Beautiful.
The DC Defenders.
Dominate today. No regrets.
Touchdown, Defenders!
A divisional showdown of playoff contenders.
Both teams with something to prove. We're going to have a heavyweight fight.
The United Football League. Renegades, Defenders. Today at noon Eastern on ABC. This is Freddie and Harry.
One of my favorite Freddie Coleman stories is the night that we met. I hear this voice as I'm changing at my desk. It's like 2:30 in the morning. There's no one here. And so I'm sitting there and I'm changing and I hear this. It's like, is that Randy Scott? And it was your voice. And I was like, that's Freddie Coleman. And then you turn the corner and you're like, hey, wanted to say, and you made it a point to stop and be like, you're on the right track. Absolutely. I was in the first few months of being here.
Yep.
It meant the world to me.
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Gabe, everybody was talking about the stupid flagrant foul that wasn't even really a flagrant foul. Caitlin Clark had an amazing game yesterday as the fever rolled over the sky, but there was an awesome exchange after the game where one of the reporters, I don't know if you saw this, asked Angel Reese about her offhand finishing with her right hand.
No, I did not see this.
Okay,
Yeah.
did you see this exchange? They asked her about her offhand finishing with her right hand and whether that's something that she's worked on during the offseason. And Angel Reese looked at the reporter and said, I'm right-handed. The reporter, it's time for Rapid Fire Water Cooler.
Rapid Fire Water Cooler.
Oh, my God. I'm right. That's ridiculous.
We get Sam Pierce, who joins us now, the producer of Best Week Ever on ESPN Radio. What do you got, Sammy?
That was just so ridiculous. My God, that's such an I couldn't have been in that presser room when that question was
I
asked.
can't imagine the look on Angel's face. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Excuse me?
But this guy must have thought that he had the angle of all angles to get so deep into the X's and O's of basketball. Little did he know, he didn't even know what Angel Reese's dominant hand even was.
Oh,
nobody else is talking about this. How am I the only one who's noticed this?
He said, does nobody notice? He thought he really had one there. Okay, Pete, we're going to Charlie Hustle, going to the Diamond. Pete Rose, you guys, removed from the ban list. He's now eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. The oldest radio question ever could be coming to an end.
Thank God.
Is Pete Rose going to get into the Hall of Fame, y'all?
Yeah, I think he is, but it's kind of sad at this point, Gabe, because if you're going to let him into the Hall of Fame, you should do it when the guy's still alive. And I have an issue with all these old school baseball writers that treat the Hall of Fame, Gabe, like it's a church. It's not. It's a museum. It's for fans. It was not built by God. It was built by human beings in Cooperstown, New York. And I want the steroid guys in, and I want Pete Rose in, because when I take my son Levi to the Hall of Fame, my daughter Stella to the Hall of Fame, not on the day of Game 7 of the Denver Nuggets Oklahoma City
or Zoo Day
playoff series, or Zoo Day for that matter, Cam. I want to be able to explain to them the whole history of the game. Gabe, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I understand that, but also for Pete Rose, like, I understand him going in while he was still alive would have been great for him, but he didn't deserve that. Like, he got caught, lied about it, denied it, and then only decided to tell part of the truth when it benefited him and he could sell a book. Like, I don't have any sympathy for Pete Rose. The fact that he is probably going to get in the Hall of Fame, which isn't going to happen for another couple of years based on the committee that he would have to go through. Like, that's when he would be eligible to be voted on through that committee in 2 years. I don't have sympathy for that because he was an opportunist who only took advantage of all of this when it suited him.
Yeah, he's not a Hall of Fame person, but the Hall of Fame isn't for Hall of Fame people. It's for Hall of Fame baseball players.
But that was
he a Hall of Fame baseball
decision.
player? Then he was.
Yeah, but that was a commissioner's decision. That wasn't down to, and look, I've got an issue with the voters on the Hall of Fame, like just as much as anybody, but they never had the opportunity to vote on him because the commissioners of Major League Baseball in that never made him eligible.
Yeah. All right. Is that enough hack radio for you, Sam, or do you want us to do the Jordan LeBron GOAT debate here in this segment as well? What do we got next on Rapid Fire Water Cooler?
Okay, we are staying in baseball. We're going to go with the Yankees. They're in the Subway Series. Of course, Soto's first return to Yankee Stadium in Game 1 on Friday. The bleacher creatures turned their back on Soto, and he was booed tremendously. How do we feel about this reception that Juan Soto got in his first game back in the Bronx?
This was expected. I know he's not a longtime Yankee, but he was there for, a season, and he went to the team across town. Of course this was going to happen. This is the least shocking thing to me, that the Yankees decided that, Yankee fans decided they're going to turn their back on Juan Soto because they feel like Juan Soto turned their back on them.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he went to the Mets is the part of it that locked up the booing. Now, I will say, if the Yankees had won the World Series and then he had left, I would have expected cheers. But the fact that they came up short in that series, while it's not Soto's fault, I think it changes the narrative around it a little bit. By the way, I loved the way Soto handled it. He didn't take it too seriously. He didn't flip anybody off. They were joking in the Met dugout. He took off the helmet, acted like they were cheering him, and then he went right back to grinding out an at-bat. It was perfect for Juan Soto. I think well handled by the Yankee fans, well handled by Juan Soto. Everybody gets an A+. Let's go ahead and move on. It'd be fun to see this as a World Series matchup, although I actually think the Mets are a better team than the Yankees are right now, Gabe. I'd give the Mets a better chance of making it to the World Series than I would the